Hi, my name's Kristen Anderson. My pronouns are she, her, and I'm here at the Ashland Library. I'm the branch manager here, and this is our November Read This. November is Native American Heritage Month, so I'm going to talk about titles written by Native American authors. And I think that as I was putting together the list, I wanted to do a couple of things. There's so many different facets of what people with Native American identities are writing about. We've got all kinds of genre fiction, we've got all kinds of nonfiction, and I wanted to make sure I got a representation of all of it, because there can be a tendency to kind of lean into trauma narratives and, oh, we need to focus on the boarding schools, which we do. We need to talk about the boarding schools, but we also need to talk about memoirs of people being successful in their lives, and we need to talk about food, and we need to talk about stories that are inherently positive stories as well. So we've got a range of that going on. Also, just a reminder that books and other kinds of media can be both windows and mirrors. That's a Rudine Sims Bishop concept that talks about how sometimes when we're interacting with media, we are looking at a story about someone who is like ourselves, and that's more of a mirror, and that is a self-esteem building process. And sometimes we're reading a story that is about someone who's not like us, and that is a window, and that is an empathy building process. And all of us need both. So like the reason we talk about these narratives that are from diverse backgrounds is to make sure that everyone knows that we have access to all of this, because all of us need to have both empathy and self-esteem. So this is not just a video for people of Native American identity to show them where to find the books by people like them. This is about a list and books that we could all find something interesting in, and in recognizing that there's sci-fi fantasy, there's horror, there's romance, there's memoir, there's poetry. All of that stuff is being created by people of all identities. And this is just an opportunity to lift up this specific identity. So one of the things I did, which I often do, is go to our staff Teams channel. We have a special channel to talk about books, and say, hey, what is the book by an Indigenous author that you've read this year that you think we should be talking about this month? And one book that came up multiple times was one called Chiminuam, and the subtitle of it is Native California Foodways for the Contemporary Kitchen by Sarah Olson Calvosa. And I thought that that was really a neat kind of, we don't often look at cookbooks when we're talking about this period of with Indigenous stories. So, and there's also one coming out that we don't have in our catalog yet. We have an old one, but there's someone who goes by sous chef, and it's not like Sue like you're thinking of it's SIOUX chef, and he has a book that's just called Sous Chef, but he also has a new book coming out that also has similar themes to this Chiminuam. So those are all books to look at if you want to, and those are interesting books because they deal with foods that are very kind of regionally focused, and that can be a really cool way to think about the food we eat. I also wanted to mention one that is a brand new book called The Water Remembers, and the subtitle here is My Indigenous Family's Fight to Save a River and a Way of Life. We all live near the Klamath River, and this is about the reopening of the Klamath River and the fight to return it to its navigable history. And we also have a blog post that just went up that is about this same thing. It's also there. If you've you may not be aware, but there was a group of young people who over the summer navigated the river and went from Klamath Falls all the way to the coast. to celebrate, and they were the first people to have navigated that river in years. And Ellie did a beautiful blog post about how important it is to celebrate that success and that return. And this book also gives you more information about that. So if you're interested in that story, if you followed that story while it was happening, The Water Remembers by Amy Bowers Cordalis may be a book that you want to check out. When it comes to memoirs, I brought up, I thought I'd talk about Poet Warrior by Joy Harjo. Joy Harjo is a former United States Poet Laureate, but this is her memoir. And we also have Becoming Little Shell, Returning Home to the Landless Indians of Montana by Chris Latreille. That book got recognition because it's a Pacific Northwest author. And so I believe it was recognized in the Pacific Northwest Book Awards this year. And then kind of a more broad, positive book by an Indigenous author, Becoming Kin, An Indigenous Call to Unforgetting the Past and Reimagining Our Future. This is a book for everybody, not just for Indigenous folks. Everyone is the intended audience. It's by Patty Krawiec, and it's a way to kind of look forward and kind of reconciliation. As I mentioned before, the boarding schools is a part of the traumatic history of Native peoples in this country. And I wanted to call out two recent books, one for adults and one for children. The adult book is Medicine River, A Story of Survival and the Legacy of Indian Boarding Schools. And if you want a way to share that story specifically with young people, because it's important that they also understand this history, Stealing Little Moon, The Legacy of the American Indian Boarding Schools by Dan C. Jones is something to think about. Another one that got a lot of attention just last year, By the Fire We Carry, The Generations Long Fight for Justice on Native Land by Rebecca Nagel is worth checking out. And in Ellie's blog post, she hit a whole bunch of other different books that were some of the same, some different books. The Serviceberry by Robin Wall Kimmerer, which is Abundance and Reciprocity in the Natural World. Robin Wall Kimmerer also wrote Braiding Sweetgrass and talks about Indigenous wisdom. And her focus as an academic is in kind of plants, and she knows a lot about the natural world and does some really interesting storytelling around the natural world. You'll also hear about the Serviceberry probably next month, or not next month, January, because we're going to be talking about most circulated books of the year, and I think Serviceberry will be on that list for nonfiction. Another one that came up amongst staff was poetry that we don't often when we talk about Joy Harjo, because she was a poet laureate, but Natalie Diaz is another poet with Native American ancestry, and her poetry volume, Post-Colonial Love Poem, was one that was brought up as something that staff had read this year that they really enjoyed. So when we move on to fiction, let's just do a quick survey of some fiction, and I'll rattle through some titles. One of my favorites recently is To Shape a Dragon's Breath, which is fantasy, the first book in the Nampeshawayasset series by Monoquill Blackgoose. It is a Dragon Academy book. There are a lot of Dragon Academy books out there. This is the best one I've read. I love it. Angeline Bewley's Sisters in the Wind is another one to think about. Her covers look like fantasy, but I assure you they are mystery. They do a really good job of dealing with specific issues within the Native American community. And of some big names, we've got the most recent one from Louise Erdrich, The Mighty Red, and the most recent Stephen Graham Jones, who writes horror, is The Buffalo Hunter. And a new one coming out, The Whistler by Nick Medina. He tends to write kind of thriller horror. And I believe, because I've talked to someone who's interviewed Nick Medina recently, that The Whistler plays into that Don't Whistle After Dark, which is a really big bad thing that you do not do, because bad things happen. If you want romance, Love is a War Song by Danica Nava is a Native American themed romance. Tommy Orange writes about addiction and specifically the San Francisco Bay Area. There was his first book, Wandering Stars, came out last year and is a sequel to that. Broken Fields by Marcy Rindon is a mystery series. Cash Black Bear, it's set in the 70s, and it's kind of a old school traditional mystery. Cash Black Bear does a lot of different things in her community, but she also solves mysteries on the side, and she's like a character who, I mean, me personally, I think she would be a cool friend. I like her for the character. Wabgeshig Rice wrote Moon on the Crusted Snow and Moon of the Falling Leaves, and those are post-apocalyptic reservation set kind of horror / dystopian that are really fun. Rebecca Roanhorse is someone worth talking about when you talk about the fantasy, the speculative sci-fi fantasy. Her most recent book is Mirrored Heavens. It's the third volume in a series, which is the Between Earth and Sky series. And one that I'm excited about is Passing Through a Prairie Country, which is one of those kind of horror mystery set in a casino setting by Dennis Staples. And that is what I have for you this month. And we will be talking next month about some of the big award winners of the current season that we're in, because we're getting all of the best of lists right now. So look forward to that for next month. And then in January, we'll get you the most popular books in Jackson County in terms of library circulation for the year. See you next time. Thanks.